If you have just watched Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, one of the places you are about to see might look surprisingly familiar. We had no idea at the time, but while traveling through the Peloponnese, we visited one of the movie's filming locations, and we arrived when the film crew was still clearing the site. But that's just one stop on our road trip across some of the most captivating corners of the Peloponnese. It's Greece, but not the Greece you see on postcards, and I can't wait to show you around. Well, good morning, fellow travelers. Welcome back to Ken Travels 360. This weekend, we're setting off on a road trip across the Peloponnese. Over the next few days, we'll visit ancient cities, stunning landscapes, the birthplace of the Olympic Games, and even one of the filming locations from the Odyssey. Now, after an hour's drive from Athens, we've just arrived at the gateway to the Peloponnese, Corinth. Welcome to Corinth. This is one of those places where history is just everywhere. It was a powerful city-state in ancient Greece, a major Roman hub later on. If the name Corinth sounds familiar, that's probably because of his connection to St. Paul. This is where he spent over a year spreading Christianity and wrote his famous letters to the Corinthians, which are now parts of the New Testament. But today, we're here to explore what's left of the ancient world, and trust me, there's a lot to see. Walking through ancient Corinth feels like stepping back in time. Most of the ruins you see today dates back to the Roman times, from the 1st to 1st century AD. Well, first up, there's the Temple of Apollo, built around 560 BC. These striking columns have survived earthquakes, wars, and centuries of change, making it one of the oldest temples in Greece. And if you're after a great photo, you're in luck. The Acrocorinth, the massive fortress towering over the site, makes for an incredible backdrop here. Well, next, we're heading to the Roman Forum, or Agora. In its heyday, this was the heart of the city, where politics, business, and daily life all took place. But behind me, this is the Bema of St. Paul, one of the most fascinating spots of Agora. This raised marble platform is where Roman officials would address the public, and it's believed that Paul himself was brought here to be tried for preaching Christianity. Well, one of the most legendary spots here is the Pereine Fountain. This was the city's main water source, but it also has a bit of a legend behind it. The story goes that the nymph Pereine wept so much after the loss of her son that the gods turned her into a fountain, so her tears wouldn't go to waste. Well, before we leave, it's worth stopping by the Archaeological Museum here. There's a fantastic collection of artifacts. There are colorful mosaic floors, marble sculptures, ceramics, sarcophagi, and even a bronze helmet. The museum does a great job of bringing Corinth's history to life, showing what daily life would have been like in this once thriving city.
So that wraps up our visit to ancient Corinth. But we're not quite done yet. Next, we're heading up to Acrocorinth, the massive fortress that towers over all of these. Let's go.
So here we are, the Acrocorinth. This is an epic fortress. It's perched 575 meters above sea level and has been used by just about everyone. Greeks, Romans, Byzantines, Ottomans, Venetians, they all fought to control this place. And you will soon see why. It's a natural fortress with views over the Peloponnese. And more recently, one more name joined that list. This was where Christopher Nolan filmed Iphicus Palace for his movie, The Odyssey. Acrocorinth has not one, not two, but 3 layers of defensive walls. This wasn't just a fortress, it was a stronghold of strongholds. Crossing this dry moat, we've come to the first of the 3 gateways. The first gateway is mostly Ottomans in origin, built when they ruled Corinth. The second gate here is a Venetian restoration, but it was originally a Frankish structure. This fortress has seen a lot of conquerors over the centuries. Its most recent one wasn't an army though. It was a thin crew, shooting one of the biggest movies of the year. And finally, this is the third gateway, the most impressive of the three, and mostly Byzantine. If you are attacking this fortress, this is where you realize, maybe this wasn't such a great idea. Wow, just look at this. From up here, you can see the entire Corinthian Gulf, the Saronic Gulf, and on the other side, the mountains stretching for miles. No wonder every civilization wanted to control this place. And honestly, standing here, it's not hard to see why Nolan's crew picked this exact spot too. Well, we finished with Corinth, and now we're gonna drive to Nemea. It's famous for its ancient stadium, a massive temple, and of course, Greek mythology. But there's something else this region is known for, and we'll get to that soon.
Destination is on the left.
This is Nemea. Back in ancient times, this was one of Greece's most important religious and athletic sites. They held the Nemean Games here, as they were one of the 4 sanctuaries that hosted athletic festival attended by the whole Hellenic world, the others being Izmir, Olympia, and Delphi. Behind me, you have the Temple of Zeus, and even though it's in ruins, you can still see how massive it was. This was built in the 4th century BC, and originally it has 32 huge columns. Today, only a few remain standing, but the scale is still incredible. This temple was at the heart of the Nemean Games. Athletes would come here to pray before competing, hoping Zeus would give them the strength to win. It's amazing to think this has been standing for over 2,300 years. You can almost picture the priests, the athletes, and the crowds gathered here. But the real action happened over here, the ancient stadium of Nemea. Let's go check it out. This tunnel is original, built in 320 BC, and this is where the athletes would enter the stadium. No fancy changing rooms back then, just this stone passage leading straight to the track. Wow, that was dramatic, wasn't it? And now here it is, the stadium. This stadium could hold around 40,000 spectators, all standing on the hillsides watching the events. Unlike the Olympics, the Nemean Games weren't just about athletics. They also had music and poetry competitions. The track is 178 meters long, exactly one ancient Greek stadion. This is where the word stadium comes from. And look at these. These are the original starting blocks. Athletes would play their toes here before racing. And just like today, 4 stars were a thing. Even back then, they had officials watching to make sure nobody jumped the gun. But Nemea isn't just about games and temples. It's also tied to one of the most famous Greek myths, the Nemean lion. This is where Hercules supposedly fought the legendary beast during his first labor. According to the legend, the lion had impenetrable skin. No sword or spear could wound it, so Hercules had to strangle it with his bare hands. After winning, he used the lion's own claws to skin it and wore the pelt as armor. If you have been enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel with notification bell turned on. That way, you'll be notified whenever I release a new video. Ancient history is great, but there's another reason to visit Nemea. Wine. This region is famous for producing some of the best red wines in Greece, especially from the St. George's grape. So we'll be going in there to taste some of the wine by one of the most famous wine producers here, Papagiannou.
Those are the appellation Nemea Reds. The classic Nemea, aged for 1 year in barrel. Old Vines is a selection from 40-year-old Agorgitico vineyards with lower yields. And 18 months in New French Oak. Microclima and terroir single vineyard selections of very low yielding old vines. Only best vintages released after 20 and 24 months in New French Oak.
Right.
Those are all 100% Agorgitico.
Thank you. Very nice smell.
Very nice smell.
So as I mentioned earlier, the classic grape variety here is the St. George's grape, which produces a dark fruity red wine, also called the blood of Hercules, which is fitting, right?
Not so keen on the fragrances.
But trying it actually is different. What do you think?
Oh yeah, the
Quite
taste
nice,
is nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we have two of those?
Two of
then?
those and one of those.
Yeah.
Oh, so you make all these wines here?
Yes, all the production, aging, bottling.
Cool.
Yeah. So if you visit Namibia, make sure to stop at one of the wineries here. It's the perfect way to end a day of exploring. With Namibia behind us, we are now heading to Olympia. It's a 2.5-hour drive. But arriving tonight means we can get an early start tomorrow at the birthplace of the Olympic Games. So see you tomorrow. Well, good morning from Olympia. We drove here yesterday from Namibia. It was quite a long drive, but we stayed in a hotel in Olympia. So this morning, we're starting early to beat the crowd. We're now walking to the ancient Olympic Stadium. Well, welcome to Olympia, one of the most legendary places in the world. Every 4 years, thousands gather here for the Olympic Games, dedicated to Zeus. There was no medals, no sponsorship deals, but just eternal glory. The Games were so important that all conflicts stopped, literally. There was an Olympic truce, meaning warring states had to pause their battles so athletes could travel safely to compete. Athletes will arrive here by boat. This is why the stadium sits right next to the river Alpheus. And the coolest part, the tradition still continues today. The Olympic flame for the modern games is lit right here, just like it was in ancient times. Well, we just bought our ticket. One ticket here gets you into everything. And trust me, it's worth it. This includes the archaeological sites of Olympia, where the real action happened, and also the archaeological museum, showcasing stunning ancient artifacts. There's also the Museum of the History of the Olympic Games. Well, here we go. Well, behind me, that's the gymnasium building. This is where they train for practice in foot race, javelins, and discus. Now, if you're wondering why the site looked so empty, it's because we arrived right when it opened, before any cruise ship passengers show up from Kataklon, the cruise port nearby. The ancient Olympic Games were primarily a religious festival, combined with athletic contests in honor of Zeus, king of the Greek gods. It was the most important cultural event in ancient Greece, held here every 4 years from 776 BC to 393 AD. And now, if the Olympics were all about honoring Zeus, then this was the heart of it all, the Temple of Zeus. Right here stood one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, a 30-meter statue of Zeus covered in gold and ivory. It was so impressive that ancient visitors thought it was the closest thing to seeing a god in real life. The temple itself was destroyed by earthquakes, and the statue was lost, possibly in a fire. But just look at these massive columns. Imagining them towering above you, supporting a temple fit for the king of the gods. Even in ruins, the temple is impressive. The fallen columns give you an idea of how massive this structure once was. This might not look as impressive as the Temple of Zeus, but this is actually one of the oldest temples in Greece, the Temple of Hera. And right here, at this very spot, something truly special happens. Every 2 years, the Olympic flame for the modern games is lit here using the power of the sun, just like in the ancient times. A group of priestesses dressed in traditional robes use a parabolic mirror to focus sunlight, creating the first spark of the Olympic torch relay. From here, the flame begins its journey to the whole city of the Games, carrying with it over 2,700 years of tradition. Behind me, this is the Philippion, built by Philip II of Macedon, Alexander the Great's dad. It's a rare example of a circular building in Olympia. meant to show off his family's divine connections, humble bragging at its finest.
But after all the temples, we're finally at the entrance tunnel to the stadium. Let's go check it out.
Now, this is where it all happened, the ancient Olympic stadiums. No seats, no shade, just pure competition. Up to 45,000 spectators packed onto the grassy slope to watch. And here's a fun fact, the only event in the first Olympics is a single 192-meter sprint called the Stadion Race. That's where we get the word stadium from. Right here is the ancient starting line, carved in stone. Athletes would dig their toes into these grooves for a strong push-off. And yeah, they competed completely naked. Imagine running a sprint like that in front of thousands of people. Well, of course, we have to experience running down the Olympic track, the original ancient Olympic track. So let's do that.
On your marks, get set, go!
Well, there you go. I've run a stadion in the ancient Olympic Stadium. Not many people get to say that. Well, now that we've seen where the action happened, let's check out what's been left behind. The museum here holds some of the best preserved artifacts from Olympia, and some of them are truly jaw-dropping. Right, let's go check out the museum.
After walking the site itself, the archaeological museum is where everything from those ruins actually come together. But a few pieces in here are particularly striking and significant, so let's go see them. First up, you have the Nike of Paeonios. This is a striking marble statue of the goddess of victory, looking like she's just landed, and her robes still whipping behind her. She was originally mounted high on a pillar near the temple of Zeus, so ancient visitors would have looked up to see her almost floating above them. But the next room is the real highlight of the museum, and these are the original sculptures from the pediments of the temple of Zeus, and they were once perched so high up that visitors below could barely make out the detail. Here at eye level, you can finally see them properly. The east pediment tells the story of a chariot race, and the west one shows a wild chaotic battle between the Lepids and the Centaurs, with Apollo standing majestically in the middle of the chaos. What I found remarkable is that all these sculptures are still mostly intact.
And here you can see a recreation of the statue of Zeus that you will have found in the Temple of Zeus. Well, here you will also find one of the most famous statues in Greek art, the Hermes of Praxiteles. It was found during the excavation of Temple of Hera.
It showed Hermes carrying the infant god Dionysus, and up close you can still see the softness in the marble, the relaxed pose, and the lifelike weight shift. Finally, check out these helmets. These were worn by ancient Olympians and warriors, and some of them still have battle damage.
If you want to dive deeper into ancient Olympic Games, this is the place to be. The Museum of the History of the Olympic Games of Antiquity is packed with incredible artifacts, old manuscripts, and detailed explanation of how the games evolved over time. Here they talk about how women were forbidden completely from competing in the Olympic Games, or even just entering the stadium to watch the games. So here you can see what events they had in the Olympic Games. At the very first one, there's just the Stadion Run. And then there are more events, more sprint, more middle and long distance race, and then there's pentathlon, wrestling, boxing, and then there's chariot race. One of the most fascinating exhibits is probably these ancient hauteres. They are stone weights that long jumpers used to propel themselves further. When here, you see a mosaic floor that depicts the Olympic Games. It's fascinating, it's in such a good condition.
The museum here does a fantastic job of showing how the Olympic Games weren't just sporting events, but deeply religious and cultural gatherings. Winning wasn't just about athleticism, it was seen as a sign of divine favor. And if you won, you didn't just get an olive wreath, you'll be treated like a hero for life.
But when you finish visiting all the Olympic sites, you can have a stroll along the main street of Olympia. There are lots of restaurants and souvenir shops. So we're finishing our visit to Olympia. We're now going to get back to our car and we'll be driving to Nafplion.
Thank you.
Right, we've just arrived at Nafplio, a beautiful coastal town with a lot of history. It was actually the first capital of modern Greece from 1828 to 1834. And this is where Greece took its first steps as a newly independent nation. Look at the stunning architecture around us. It feels a bit Italian, doesn't it? That's because these are Venetian-style buildings. The Venetians ruled this area for a significant period, leaving their mark on Nafplio's architectures and fortifications. This blend gives the town a unique Mediterranean feel, setting it apart from other Greek towns. Now, welcome to Syntagma Square, the heart of Nafplio. This is the perfect spot for people watching, grabbing a coffee and soaking in the vibrant atmosphere. You'll see a mix of locals and tourists, all enjoying the day in this historic square. Right, it's time to call it a night here. But don't go anywhere just yet, as we've still got 2 attractions in Nafplio to explore tomorrow morning. Well, good morning, Nafplio. We're so back. After a good night's sleep, we're now ready to see what this city is really about in the daylight. So now we're going to visit Buzzi Castle, that serene little fortress island in the harbor. There will be these little boats that takes you there, and the return fare is €5. Right, we just arrived at Buzzi Castle. The admission here is €7. It's a little bit steep, but we got to go in to explore it, don't we? Built by the Venetians, it was initially a defensive stronghold guarding the harbor entrance. It was later expanded to become a hexagonal castle. But after 1833, it took on a rather unusual and somewhat grim role. It became the residence of the executioner. Now imagine that, this beautiful isolated castle used as a home for the person responsible for carrying out capital punishments. And it wasn't just a random choice. He lived here for his own protection, you see. Being the executioner wasn't exactly a popular job, and he needed a safe haven from potential vengeance. From this isolated spot, he would travel to Palamidi Fortress for the guillotine executions. Later, this place was then converted into a hotel, but it was eventually abandoned.
Finally, in 2011, the castle was restored and now accessible to the public. But there are some steps to the top of the central tower. Let's go up there.
But up here at the top of the central tower, you can get a great view of Nafplion. It's so beautiful. By the way, Buzzi actually means island fortress in Turkish. And once you see it sitting out here in the middle of the harbor, that name makes a lot of sense. Today, this place has become the symbol of Nafplio itself. It's the shot that you will see on every postcard.
Let's get back to the mainland.
As we wander through Nafplio, it's impossible to miss the imposing fortress towering above us, Palamidi Castle. And yes, it's quite the climb up there, with some saying it's 999 steps, while others claim the correct count is 913. But either way, we're taking the easy route and driving up. And there it is, Palamidi Castle, watching over Nafplio from up here. The fortress was built by the Venetians between 1711 to 1714, but it later fell under Ottoman control. During the Greek War of Independence, Greek revolutionary forces captured the fortress, boosting morale and providing a secure base for their operations in the region. Nafplio's history is also intertwined with Greek mythology, particularly through Nauplius, son of Poseidon, who is said to have founded the city. Walking through here, you start to understand why this place was considered such a military masterpiece. The fortress is made up of 8 separate bastions, and each one was built to stand entirely on its own. If the enemy captured one, the rest could keep fighting independently, almost like 8 mini fortresses in one. Most of them are even named after ancient Greek warriors, like Achilles and Leonidas, among others. And in a strange twist of history, one of these bastions, Miltiades, later became a prison holding Theodoros Kolokotronis, one of the most celebrated heroes of the Greek Revolution. Well, we finally walk to the higher bastion now. Let's go up there to have a look. Well, up here at the Palamidi Fortress, there are 8 bastions for you to explore. But the main thing to see here are the views. You get a panoramic vista of Nafplio, the Argolic Gulf, and the Busse Castle out in the harbour, which we visited earlier. From the Palamidi Fortress, it's just a half an hour drive to our final stop. And it might just be the most intriguing one yet, Mycenae. If you've ever heard of the Trojan War, then you've heard of Mycenae, one of the most powerful cities of the ancient world and home to King Agamemnon, the legendary leader of the Greek forces against Troy. It was from here that Agamemnon launched 1,000 ships, leading the Greek armies into a war that became legend, immortalized by Homer in the Iliad. Homer described Mycenae as rich in gold, a testament to its immense wealth and power. Mycenae was at its peak between 1600 and 1100 BC during the late Bronze Age. The Mycenaeans were master builders, traders, and warriors, and their influence spread across the Aegean. Look at how thick the walls are. The ancient Greeks thought they were built by Cyclops. And this is the famous Lion Gate, the main entrance to the city, built around 1250 BC. These 2 lions are the symbol of Mycenaean power, and they're still standing here after over 3,000 years. Once inside, you get a sense of how impressive Mycenae must have been. The city had palaces, workshops, and royal tombs, all connected by a network of roads. But this is Grave Circle A, a royal burial site where some of the most famous Mycenaean treasures were found, including the legendary mask of Agamemnon. It's a solid gold mask believed at the time to belong to King Agamemnon himself, although modern archaeologists think it might be even older. Well, we are almost at the top of the citadel now. You can see why they occupy here. You get such a commanding position. Well, the heart of Mycenae was the palace, built on the highest point of the city. Not much remains today. From up here, you can see why Mycenae was such a powerful city. It controlled trade routes, had natural defenses, and commanded a vast territory. No wonder Homer wrote about it as rich in gold. But the most jaw-dropping part of Mycenae is just outside the main site, the treasury of Atreus, or the tomb of Agamemnon. This is a beehive tomb built around 1250 BC and is one of the best preserved in all of Greece. Look at the size of the entrance. The stone above the doorway weighs over 100 tons and it's been sitting here for over 3 millennia. Well, the inside is just as impressive. This was a royal tomb, possibly for one of Mycenae's great rulers, and the sheer scale of it is just mind-blowing. The dome was the largest in the world for over 1,000 years, until the Romans built the Pantheon. It's incredible to think that this was built so long ago, and yet it's still standing. Well, before we leave Mycenae, there's one last stop that's absolutely worthy. That's the Archaeological Museum. If you walk around the ruins and thought, I wish I could see what life was actually like here, well, this is the place to do it. The museum is packed with artifacts found right here in Mycenae, and some of them are just incredible. First up, gold, lots of gold. The Mycenaeans were masters of metalwork, and the famous gold grave goods are on display here. We're talking about jewelry, ceremonial daggers, and even gold cups. These belong to Mycenaean elites, showing just how wealthy and powerful this place was. And then there's this. This is the gold death mask. It was placed over the faces of the dead in the royal tombs.
And it's not just gold, though. There are stunning pottery pieces, tiny carved seal stones, and even fragments of frescoes that once decorated Mycenaean palaces.
Walking through the ruins was one thing, but seeing all these actual objects that Mycenaeans used in the museum, that really brings it all to life. This museum is a must if you are coming here. It's the missing puzzle piece that makes everything click. Over the last 3 days, we've explored 5 incredible places across the Peloponnese. Each one unique in its own way. But which was your favorite? Let me know in the comments. Well, I hope you enjoyed this journey with us. If you did, don't forget to subscribe for more travel adventures.
Funny enough, this wasn't actually our first taste of the Peloponnese. We visited once before, seeing the Corinth Canal, the ancient theatre of Epidaurus, and swimming over a sunken city. I made a whole video about that trip actually. Or if you fancy a change of scenery, I've also got a video from our trip to Rhodes.
Check out one of these videos next. I'll see you over there. Ciao ciao!